Well, good afternoon, good evening, and in some places, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Harry Brailsford here on a special edition webinar this week on Tuesday instead of our normal Thursday, because Thursday in the USA is Thanksgiving. So we are all gathering today. I'm coming to you live from Seattle. Everyone else is all over and distributed. But we're here for a disaster recovery webinar. And before I get going, a little bit of housekeeping that next week the webinars return to Thursday, as usual at noon Pacific. And then we'll all be off for the next couple of days at SMB Nation. So Thursday, Friday are holidays with SMB Nation. So please respect our tardiness if you send us an email. And then I'm kind of on duty next week in so many ways because Jenny's taking a well-deserved vacation next week. So be sure to reach out to me if it's an urgent matter. With that said, disaster recovery, the cloud changes everything. We're here with Chris and Derek, our friends from INFRASCALE, and always nice to kind of reconnect with you guys. We should probably just jump right into it, gentlemen, because it is kind of a holiday week. Appreciate the audience, good-sized audience, and I appreciate them taking time out of their, probably wrapping up the last few things before they take some time off. How are you gentlemen doing today?
Great. Thanks, Harry.
Fantastic. Always great to be on with you, Harry.
Yeah. Well, let's get this party started.
All right. So I am Chris Dervant. I'm the channel chief here at INFRASCALE, and we've got Derek Wood here, who is our director of channel enablement. We'll be presenting some great information to you guys today. But before we dive into it, I wanted to encourage everyone to please send us your questions. Type them into the chat box there, and at the end of the meeting, we're going to select our favorite question asker, and they'll have a choice of one of these three fabulous prizes: an Xbox, an Apple TV, or a cool drone. So make sure you type in your questions, type them in throughout the session, and we will take as many as we have time for at the end. Okay, so today we're going to cover a few different things. Really the core theme here is how the cloud is starting to change people's approach to disaster recovery in the IT world. I'm going to review briefly the advantages of the cloud. I'm sure you're all familiar with it, but we'll just recap some of the key reasons that people are moving so much of their infrastructure to the cloud. Derek is going to go into really the impact that the cloud has brought to the disaster recovery solution. I'll give you a little bit of information about our company, and then we'll take your Q&A for as much time as we have remaining. So let's continue on. So we're going to start with a poll. Jenny, if you want to go ahead and launch that. How many of you are currently using the cloud for more than 50% of your business applications? Just go ahead and answer the poll when that comes up.
Organizers and panelists don't vote. Look at that. I am forbidden from voting.
Well, Harry, do you have more than 50% of your business applications in the cloud?
Sure do.
All right. Well, there you go. You got to vote in. It's informal now. All right. I think we're probably ready about to wrap that up. Okay. So can one of you guys read the poll results?
I'd be happy to, if you don't mind. Yes is 52%, no is 48%. So it's almost 50-50, which is very interesting with the way you phrased the question.
Agreed. It's interesting because almost everyone's got at least something in the cloud now, but the folks that are more advanced, it's more than half of their stuff in the cloud, and half of the audience. That's pretty interesting. So I think that as we start to dig into the implications around disaster recovery with the cloud, it should be very, very relevant for everybody. So let's go ahead and roll on here. So we're going to cover briefly again the advantages of the cloud. This is obviously a giant wave that is sweeping through the IT environment. It's been accelerating and gathering momentum. The amount of spending on the public cloud infrastructure as well as private cloud. Oh, I think we just, hang on. Just lost a little screen control there.
There we go.
Harry was trying to take control back.
Sir, we're back. We're back.
Harry, you just can't stand not having control, can you? So he took it away. And
there you go.
But this movement to the cloud is definitely gaining momentum. I think that when it was fairly, early on, there was a lot of concern about security and reliability about the cloud. And I think that over time, people just have consistent experience with the cloud. They're getting more and more comfortable. There's big names behind the cloud now with Microsoft, Google, and Amazon all offering public cloud, and the technologies as well as the internet pipe have all kind of contributed to the usability, reliability, and security of the cloud. So, but it's looking at a crazy size market there, 173 billion in 10 years. So, but why? Why is that exciting? So the key things: flexibility, cost savings, and security. We talk about flexibility. The number one reason that people go to the cloud is that ability to scale up and down on resources, right? Versus having to buy more servers, buy more storage as you go, and then you have no way to scale down when you use less than what you're buying. But in the cloud, it's very dynamic, usage-based pricing. It allows companies that are in high growth mode or who have huge seasonal swings to react more quickly on the IT side to their business needs. The anywhere, anytime access, obviously, just get to the stuff through the browser. We talked a little bit a second ago about the public cloud, but lots of different private cloud options as well. There's a lot of different hosting companies where you can throw stuff in a rack or rent resources or even stand up your own data center. Time to market, this really has to do with companies that do a lot of e-commerce or digital data interchange on the internet, allows them to be much more productive and efficient. And then the last one, which really kind of comes back to the scale capacity up and down, is the pay-as-you-go or usage-based metering model versus investing vast sums in hardware as you go. Cost-saving side, and this is always subject to a vigorous debate, but in most cases, if it's managed correctly, you can reduce your overall spend. You can certainly reduce your CapEx expenditure and get all of this stuff onto a monthly operation expenses line item. The faster rollouts, again, comes back to scale up, scale down, reduce costs, reduced overall IT spending. You don't have in-house folks necessarily having to manage as much gear. You definitely don't have to pay for maintenance on the gear that you don't have. And then finally, the software update piece is actually a giant time saver and convenience in terms of, again, reduced IT labor, not having to patch and upgrade and maintain all these servers. It's being done for you by the cloud provider in most cases. And security, and this again I think is one of the biggest reasons that we're seeing this mass adoption. Enterprise-grade security, again, Microsoft, Google, Amazon. These guys bring some pretty serious mojo to the security area. Encryption for the data, typically encrypted inside the data center. Depending on what service you use or how you access your cloud, you can have encryption on the data in flight. Some companies and applications offer private key encryption where only you have the ability to see that data and people on the data center side can't see it. The perimeters and surveillance has to do with the physical data center security. Many of these cloud providers are SAE 16 compliant and have gone through their annual audit to make sure that there is things like controlled access, thorough and frequent auditing, no ability for anyone to get at the data without going through a multi-factor authentication process. And then the last one, this is available for some services, is the ability to do a remote wipe on like stolen laptops and tablets and that sort of thing. But that depends really quite a bit on what application that you're using. But again, the security is definitely something that's given people a lot more comfort level with the public cloud these days, and as I think really opened up adoption much more widely than it was in the past.
Hey, Chris.
So with that, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, Chris, if you don't mind, would you take a question now? We're starting to get some questions to roll in. Would that be okay, or would you prefer to wait for another break point?
Oh, I think we can take a couple now. Go for it.
Okay. So here, we have a question. How are you different, better than Datto?
That's one we should probably take at the end, because we're going to talk a little bit about our company and our services in the last section of the presentation.
Okay.
So why don't you hit me with that one first when we get through that part of it.
Okay, and I have one for Derek. You briefly discussed the orchestration. Chris, you presented that. Can you explain that again? Derek, you want to tackle the orchestration and that conversation?
Yeah, we actually are going to cover it in just a couple of slides, so we can cover it at a high level, and then if there's an elaboration question, then we can cover it then as well, no problem.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I've had too much coffee. let's continue, Chris.
That's okay. So I've given the mouse over to Derek. Go for it.
All right. So we covered how cloud can change computing, and we've seen it happen with email and applications. And now we're going to talk specifically, how does this apply to DR? You know, the drastically different DR environment that you'd be working with today. And so we broke it down into 5 main ways. One is really how easy it is to use, push button failover. The second part of it is how much more affordable DR is today than it used to be. Most people today, when you say DR, they immediately think sticker shock. It's too expensive. Those 2 letters just aren't going to belong in an organization. But that's changed. Anomaly detection, as it applies to ransomware. How does this help you in combating what is the biggest threat in computing today? Then restoring critical systems. What does the process actually look like? You know, step by step, how is it different from what you may have had to go through before? And then, of course, making sure that it's all compliant and secure. You know, one of the main concerns about going to the cloud for anything is, you know, which cloud is it? Somebody's managing it. Who is that person, and how is it being secured? So the first thing, push button failover. So this is what your experience looks like with a cloud-enabled draft solution. You have Mr. End User here, and he's working on some application server, a database server, you know, your CRM, whatever it is, mail server, maybe connected to a file server as well, and then all of a sudden, boom, he loses access to everything. So Mr. User calls the admin, says, hey, everything is done, the sky is falling, can you get over here and push the sky back up where it's supposed to be? Well, it's not such a big deal. The administrator can, from their laptop, so you don't need to be in a specific location as long as they're connected to the internet, log into their interface with their cloud-enabled draft solution, and they should be able to right-click and virtualize any number of machines or applications right into the cloud. And then once they do that, then of course, well, what good is that to Mr. User if they're just running over here? Well, they're going to get access to reconnect those users so they can continue working. And that's what we mean by easy use and how easy it is for push button failover. So how does it actually work in terms of what you would typically see in a solution? Well, we have these 3 rows of kind of the procedure at a high level of how to go through a recovery scenario. With an old tape backup system, this is going to be your longest because you have a unique retrieval step, because you have a physical tape library you have to address, and if you go off-site with those, you may have to go off-site. So oftentimes there's multiple people involved, and so you have a retrieval step that you don't have even with a modern, but not yet, cloud-enabled DR system as we see below. Then you go through the restore process, and with both your tape and your hard drive systems, the restore means you need to have somewhere to restore to. So do you have hardware available? If you get past that point, then you go through restore, and you need to make sure it's valid. And then once it's valid, then you put it into a production environment, and you reconnect your users, and then you're back up and running. Both of the first 2 options, you're looking at long hours or days before the downtime ticker has stopped and you're back up and running. With a cloud-enabled draft solution, you should be able to right-click, boot up machines, and be up and running in a matter of minutes. We're talking 15 minutes to get the machine up and running, and then maybe another 20 or 30 minutes to reconnect them at most. And then you can take a patient approach to restoring back to production, meaning you don't have to do things the fast way. you could do things the right way. Oftentimes what you find with a lot of IT staff or with even contracted staff is they're trying to end the downtime ticker any way possible because that's what's most expensive. And they'll often take the fastest way and have some to-dos thereafter to go back and fix things. Well, how often does that actually happen? And a lot of times you have loose ends that don't get tied up because they're busy messing with these older systems. Then we go into the affordability part of it. So we talked about speed, and this is a little chart we put together to show generally the evolution of DR systems and what you have available today in a recovery time versus cost. So first, tape backup, relatively accepted as one of the cheapest storage mediums available. It's also one of the slowest. Then you had cloud backup come up, and it's a little more costly, easier to manage, a little faster to recover. And then you start getting into appliance backup. Now this is where you start seeing some real money being spent, but it's still well within the wheelhouse of your SMBs. Then you have cold site DR. Now we're starting to look at the more medium side of the SMB market, so it's going to get a little cost prohibitive here. And then warm site DR, of course, is a terrific recovery time option, but this is really kind of in the SME area. You're looking at small, medium enterprises. And then hot site DR, these systems are usually so expensive, you're going to be really protecting a transactional database system, like some e-commerce system where you're losing thousands of dollars a minute. But today, with cloud-enabled drafts, you should be able to get the recovery time of a warm to hot site DR, but at the cost of what a traditional tape backup system would be. And this is how we do it. The old way, any type of failover, you need to have hardware to recover to. And that's expensive. It doubles your infrastructure costs, doubles your management costs, all these sorts of things. With cloud-enabled drafts, just like with hosting your email offsite, you no longer need someone to manage your email server. So how much more valuable is your IT guy that he can focus on other critical applications or critical help for your users? They don't have to manage the hardware. Whenever you do a tech refresh, you're going to have to refresh your secondary hardware as well. If the hardware is not on the same site, what kind of time does that take to go to the second site and manage it? Are there different people? All of these things with the old way of DR and backup really allow for a lot of points of failure. And these points of failure, on top of the cost of the actual systems themselves, you're looking at something near a 10-to-1 cost difference. So with cloud-enabled drafts, that's how we're able to get to that drafts nirvana, where it's something that's as affordable as a traditional tape system, but gets you a modern-day recovery time option. Then we have, today, everyone has heard about ransomware. Ransomware is the biggest thing to hit the market from a cyber criminal standpoint ever. It's estimated about $70 billion a year is lost in downtime due to ransomware attacks. And when it happens, you're given a message and you get two options. You pay out the ransom, which oftentimes you're given a time limit. So the time limit says, your ransom is going to increase after so long. And some later ones have even just said you won't be able to pay the ransom if it's not paid by this time. Usually that's 24 hours. And if you do pay the ransom, only about 45% of people have actually gotten their data back after paying the ransom, whether it's because the cyber criminals were dishonest or because they were rookies and their software just corrupted all the files. 45% of people have gotten their data back. So really your option is you got to restore. And you can't just have any backup system in place. What we found is that a lot of backup systems don't have the retention policy or the capability to identify easily a point at which to go back to beat that downtime ticker that the ransomware criminals have given you. So what you have to do is you have to look for a system that gives you some sort of tool to figure it out. An anomaly detection function is something that would give you either an early warning that maybe you can avoid the ransom notice altogether. So you get an anomaly detection that something strange is happening on one of your machines, you go and investigate, you find out that it's one of these slow incubating ransomware strains, and you're able to isolate the issue and get rid of it before you even get a notice. If you're not so fortunate to have a slow incubating strain, and it's something that as soon as it gets the access to the things it wants and it triggers, then the anomaly detection will give you a really easy point to say, okay, this is when it was triggered. And that gives you the ability to go back in time and figure out, when you need to do your recovery. Which takes us into how do you restore a critical system from a DRAS solution, specifically a cloud-enabled solution versus an old way. Well, we already went through your basic steps. You get infected, you isolate the issue, you had to determine when it happened, and then you have to start looking through your backups and trying to recover. With a traditional backup system or even a cloud backup or the non-cloud enabled DRAS option, to rebuild your server can take some time because, again, you still need to get hardware in place. You need to test the viability of the restore point that you've chosen. And if it's not a viable option, you're going to have to start over. So you just lost a few hours. With cloud-enabled DRAS, you can simultaneously boot multiple machines, whether that's through our orchestration program where you can predefine groups that will boot together or in a specific order. So if you have an entire virtual environment, you can predefine, okay, this is my boot group for my file and application servers. We'll do Active Directory first, then the file server, then the application server. And then that'll help you connect things. So you can get to work on other things while the boot's happening, which again is pretty fast. And it's these types of things that add up to a solution that is not only affordable, but gives you that downtime elimination as much as possible so that you can keep the business up and running. When it comes to ransomware, the average downtime is about 3 to 5 business days, which also happens to be that critical time frame of where 80% of businesses don't recover. It only takes a week of being down to really do a lot of damage to your reputation, your customers, and your ongoing operations. Then we covered how do you recover, how do you go, and how does it benefit you there? But you got to make sure that it's something you can actually use. We know a lot of businesses today, whether they're financial, legal, criminal justice information services, you have to make sure that where the data is being stored is an appropriate place that's not going to get you in trouble other places. So you want to make sure that your data is being encrypted at the appropriate level. So AES 256-bit is the standard required for HIPAA and SAS. FIPS 140-2 is the encryption standard for criminal justice information services. You want to make sure that the data is encrypted not just before it leaves the machine, but while it's at the data center. A lot of services will decrypt the data, or they'll only transfer it over a secure tunnel, but it'll never actually be encrypted itself. This is often out of compliance for a lot of different compliances like, again, SSAE 16 and all this. Then you have the data center. You have different tier-rated data centers, and their tier rating often goes into the specifics of, what type of residency do they have, what type of redundancy in power or in connectivity, what type of fire systems do they have biometric logins, all that sort of thing. And then you get into a combination of data center infrastructure as well as software. So if you're dealing with a company that's less sophisticated and they're just throwing a piece of hardware into, or they're just throwing data into, say, Amazon storage services, then the process is all kind of going to Amazon. If you have a more sophisticated cloud backup vendor, then you're going to get an advantage of a better service, but then they're also going to have a part in things like patch management, breach notifications, monitoring. Will they sign business associate agreements if they're dealing with healthcare records, these sorts of things. And compliance is a critical component of, again, being able to use the service. Just because it's available doesn't mean you can or should use it. And again, you can check to see retention policy. This is a big one. A lot of services mandate how long or how much data can go into the cloud if they do have a cloud option. You want to pick one that's not going to have separate licenses for this. It's your data, you're paying for the storage. You should be able to keep as much or as little data in the cloud or on-site as you like. Some services will divide this into a, well, that's not a backup, that's an archive. But you know, as a user, as a business, you know data that you need to have on hand immediately, and you know data that you need to have, but not necessarily right away. So you should have the controls to say, we want data for 8 years. We don't care if it hasn't changed. And a lot of the services don't have that by default, and you have to look at different licensing and different services just to get that. And that's something that you should also pay attention to. And that leads us into our next poll, and I'll pass it back to Chris.
Jenny, you want to go ahead and launch that poll? Oh, there it is. Good job.
There we go.
All right, so which problem are you primarily looking to address with the cloud? Are you looking for something in DR? Is ransomware the big thing that you need to check off your box? A lot of times, maybe you had a DR option, but it doesn't apply to ransomware very well. Or is compliance something that's a concern? We've had a lot of companies lately getting audited, and suddenly the sky is falling and they need to figure out how to get in compliance. You know, those fines are no joke. And if you're a criminal justice agency, you know, there's potential jail time, so that's also not a joke.
All right. So Harry, what did we come back with on the poll results there?
Let me see. We have disaster recovery at 60%, ransomware mitigation at 32%, and compliance headache last at 8%.
All right. A lot of DR and a lot of ransomware. Yeah, the ransomware thing is interesting. Frequently when I work with groups of MSPs and also customers, and we ask people in the room, like how many folks here have been affected in the last year, we're getting some pretty incredible results, like 40 to 50% of the people have had someone directly affected by ransomware in the last 12 months. So it's one of the good reasons to come and take a look at this stuff, yeah. All right. So Derek, is it back to me?
You're on.
All right. So to come back to the question that we had earlier about us, so let's see if we can give you some information about the company and the services, and then we can start to do some contrast and compare, I should say. So why would you consider INFRASCALE as a solution for your own data protection or ransomware defense? We have two different services, as we're about to get into. They basically allow companies of just about any configuration, whether it's a single location, public cloud, private cloud, distributed, remote workers, all those things. We could cover all of those different things, providing not only the backup and recovery along the style that Derek just described, but some ransomware protection as well. And we also have the ability to fail over servers that go down both locally and in the cloud via the push button failover solution. Company has been around for 10 years. We have over 50,000 customers. You can see that most of them are in North America, but we have quite a bit of presence in Europe and growing internationally. We have actually close to 1,000 partners worldwide now that typically our customers purchase the service and have it installed and deployed by one of our partners locally. And we've got over 1 million devices protected at this point. So our mission as a company is to eradicate both downtime and data loss for all of our customers. And when we talk about that, one of the things that's really kind of interesting is you look at the complete data stack that a company can have. Everyone's got their core data center, their servers, their mission critical applications, and this has received the bulk of the attention when it comes to backup and disaster recovery solutions, the traditional kind of on-site appliance or get a copy of it backed up and send it off-site is typically focused around the core data center. And this is the area, again, that typically gets protected pretty well by IT or if you use a third-party service provider. On the other hand, the remote guys, the remote users, remote branch office locations, and endpoints, and this could be laptops, it could be tablets. It could actually be mobile phones. These are things that are almost never included in that umbrella of protection as part of the IT infrastructure. And we find that this is the case in nearly all small and medium businesses that we encounter. We have developed, again, 2 different solutions, and we'll go into them in a little more detail, but we have the ability to cover the complete environment and then show it all to you through a single dashboard. So how do we do that? So the 2 products are Cloud Backup and Disaster Recovery. Cloud Backup is direct to cloud from the device. You load a small piece of software called an agent, and this could be on a server, a workstation, a laptop, a phone, a tablet, you name it. And this basically will let you back up the data directly to the cloud. On a per-device basis, you can set the schedule, how often it runs. You can determine the retention policies around it. And you also have quality of service controls, meaning you can dial up and down the amount of pipe that it uses so that it doesn't impact business during business hours. The solution is typically used to protect all of the endpoints, but is also used in some cases to protect servers. But again, remote users, mobile devices, really super handy. The disaster recovery solution is a more traditional approach where you've got an on-premise appliance, and that appliance could either be a physical hardware appliance or a virtual software appliance if you're running in a pure Hyper-V or VMware environment. It basically backs up locally and gives the ability to fail over locally, and then offsites that data to a cloud and allows you to fail over to the cloud. And those are the 2 different services, and between them, you can cover just about any kind of environment as we talked about. So when we talk about any kind of environment, it's all different devices. So it's not only physical servers, so you get your Windows and Linux, but also virtual servers, virtual environments, desktops, laptops, mobile devices. And that's achievable because we've got the ability to back up and support all of these different operating systems and more. So VMware Hyper-V, obviously big. You get out to the mobile devices, you get your iOS and Android, you got Mac OS for your Apples. In addition, granular recovery and restore, specifically for Microsoft Exchange and Microsoft SQL Server. So if you've got a problem with one of those 2 applications, it's got a great ability to recover there as well. Let's talk about the cloud. Now, this is kind of interesting. So we spent some time earlier talking about how the public cloud is becoming more and more popular, but many companies have got their own data center, or they may be contracted with a service provider that has got their stuff there locally in a private cloud. You have the ability to point the data stream off-site from our disaster recovery solution to any of the above. So you can send it to our cloud. You can send it to a private cloud. You can send it to Amazon, S3 or Glacier, Azure or Google Cloud, and it's basically at the customer's preference, and we have customers deploying in all 3 of these styles. And one of the other key things to point out is that the data is encrypted in flight and in the data center, which is one of the reasons that we're able to have so many of those key compliance and certification badges, is the data is secured. We also have the ability to do a end user key where only the end user has the ability to decode that data. If that key is ever lost, life gets pretty interesting, but that does eliminate the ability for anyone else to ever see that data. Talking about security and compliance certifications, we've got probably 3,000 or 4,000 customers alone in the healthcare vertical. The HIPAA compliance is super important to them, obviously. We're willing to sign the business associate agreement, as Derek mentioned earlier, and we can be part of a complete HIPAA compliant environment. We have 14 data centers around the world, 9 of which are in the US. They are all SSAE 16 certified. And you can see a sampling of some other different compliances and badges that we have. Real briefly, I'll cover CJIS if you're not familiar. CJIS is for law enforcement, so police, Coast Guard, that sort of thing, have very restrictive rules around where they can and cannot send their data off-site. We have CJIS compliant data center, and we have a number of different police departments that use the solution that way as well. If you happen to be one that has a CJIS compliance, you should definitely check this out. Okay, we're going to go to the next poll, And what we'd like to find out now is if you'd like to learn more about our backup and disaster recovery solutions. So go ahead and select A or B, but we prefer A.
Folks, that's first or second one, yes or not yet?
I think you can close that down. That's pretty quick to answer, I'm sure.
Okay, I'm happy to read. So it's yes, I'd like to learn more at 65%, and 35% is not yet, but maybe later.
All right, well, that's great. Well, 2/3 of you guys would like to learn some more. So let's continue onward. And then again, we'll take as many questions as we can with the time we have remaining at the end here. So here's one thing that you can do. It's pretty kind of interesting. We have set up a microsite, which is actually a survey, which is designed to allow companies to do a self-assessment as to whether or not their environment makes them a soft target for ransomware. So if you were to go right now to www.ruasofttarget.com, there's a very brief survey. It will come back and give you a score as well as some guidance. And it's a very interesting tool, and I think it's pretty eye-opening for many companies. Most companies don't do all the things that they can do to protect themselves, and this will talk a little bit about how you can remedy some of that stuff. And for those of you that wanted to learn more about the solution, you can go ahead and email us at team@infrascale.com. We'd be happy to set up time to have someone follow up with you, answer any of your questions, and show you the service and how it would fit into your environments. And so with that, I'm going to hand it back to Harry, and we can take some questions. It looks like we got a little time left to go.
Okay, great. Let me get the panel out in the wild here. A lot of questions. I got to expand my panel window. There we go. Boy, let me back up. Bear with me. There are a lot of questions today. So, Derek, can you explain again at a high level how DRAS works? How DRAS works at a high level?
At a high level, DRAS is disaster recovery as a service. And the big difference between traditional DR systems and DR as a service is we take out the management and capital costs that a typical DR system would require. So the hardware purchase, the hardware refresh, hardware management, all of that is covered under the as a service part. And then if you add the cloud-enabled DRAS, then you have your 15-minute restore time options, which is actually part of our SLA. So that's really the high-level difference between DR and DRAS.
Okay, and Derek, do you support Hyper-V and VMware for virtualized environments?
We do support both, and it's very simple. And even if you have multiple hosts, that's no problem either. You can connect to your vSphere, and it'll Mr. Sniffy through and find all the other hosts you have, and it'll automatically add all your machines. It's very easy, and you can restore right back to your existing host as well. So it's a terrific solution for virtual environments.
Okay, and Chris, question for you. I really haven't heard of INFRASCALE before today's webinar. How do I know you're legit?
How do you know we are legit? Well, first of all, we've got more than 40,000 customers that use the solution. The reason that many of you have probably not heard of us is we sell our solution exclusively through our network of channel partners, and so many of our customers don't necessarily know that they're using INFRASCALE as their backup and DR solution, as they're having it provided and managed by an MSP. The second thing I can say is that we've got well, we've won a number of awards, actually. We were a cool vendor from Gartner last year. We are on the Gartner Magic Quadrant, where they analyze all of the different companies that offer disaster recovery as a service, and we are a leader in the visionary category there. And the last piece, I guess, that Derek actually mentioned is we've got a 15-minute SLA to recovery that's baked right into the contract. And so if you ever have a server go down, we guarantee that we can virtualize and get that up in 15 minutes or less.
There we go. Chris, follow-up question for you. The gentleman says, I'm actually an MSP. Does INFRASCALE have a partner program?
Oh, excellent question. Yes, we do. In fact, we just launched a refreshed version of it. The Partner Program 2.0 was launched on October 6th, so it's about a month and a half old. And it's designed for IT service providers as well as value-added resellers. It's got a lot of great benefits for partners, and it's got 3 tiers as well, so there's additional benefits that you can receive as you move forward. It is no cost to join and includes free training and a great NFR program as well. So I encourage you to check that out. If you go to our homepage, go to infrascale.com, hit the Partners tab, there is a button you can hit that says, I want to be a partner, and just fill out that form.
There we go. Chris, another question. What is your pricing model? I have about 2 terabytes of data to protect. What is your pricing model?
Excellent. So interestingly, so our pricing model is very straightforward. And actually, I'm going to answer this a couple different ways. So this comes back a little bit to the question about how we're different than Datto. We are not an appliance company. We sell our service as a monthly subscription model. And the way that it's priced is on a per terabyte of protected data basis. If you were doing a direct-to-cloud backup solution, the MSRP pricing is $142 per terabyte per month to the customer, and you can protect as many devices as you want with that and have unlimited retention in the cloud. If it is the disaster recovery solution that you're after, this again would potentially have an appliance on site. We go through the sizing exercise and we supply the hardware appliance as part of the subscription. There's no additional fees for that, and you don't have to buy the box. And if you ever outgrow the box, we'll put the next bigger box in there. That one is priced out at $1,400 activation fee per terabyte, which is an upfront charge, and $182 per month per terabyte on an ongoing monthly basis. And those are all prices that are list prices to the end user customer.
Okay, Chris, kind of related. Derek, I'll get to you in a minute. Chris, kind of related. Is support and onboarding included in your price, or is that an additional expense?
Onboarding and deployment, as well as a series of test restores and failovers, are all included in the pricing.
Okay, Derek, back at you. The question is, can we use our own private cloud, or do I have to have your cloud?
Right, we've always had the mantra, our cloud, your cloud, any cloud, and it is because we are a software-first company, so whether it's the INFRASCALE cloud backup or the DRAS option, you can point the data to replicate wherever you want. So if you have your own data center, for example, we did this with the CGIS compliant data center, we can set it up there, and that's not a problem.
There we go. Got a funny one, boys. Let's keep it light. It's a holiday week. We have Keith Nelson saying to make sure there's no cheating up here on the webinar. The context, folks, is Keith and I watch NFL games on Sunday and Facebook posts. Please join us on the play-by-play with the ref. So, Keith, great to have you on board from Southern California. Back to business. Chris,
the silver and black one, fair and square.
There you go. Go Hawks. Go Hawks. Chris, does INFRASCALE sell direct to end users or channel only?
So that's a good question, and I'm glad you brought that up. So we have a very small number of direct customers that typically, I would say 99% of the time, we are sold exclusively through our channel partners. We have a handful of large kind of Fortune 100 companies that are using giant quantities of the cloud backup product and had purchased that directly from us because there was no partner involved in the purchase. But if you look at our install base of customers, 40,000, I would say all but maybe 25 or 30 of those are SMB, small, medium business, or enterprise, and we're sold and being supported by either one of our MFP or of our partners.
Perfect. Hey, Derek, what is? Oh, go ahead, Chris.
The last comment I was going to make is we will never compete with our partners. We have a deal registration program. If you register a deal, we'll protect that, and 100% of the business goes through partners. We also do a lot of demand generation, and we feed all of those leads and opportunities out through our partners as well. Just wanted to chip that in there.
Perfect. Derek, what is the difference between your backup and DR solution?
The backup is designed for really for a direct-to-cloud backup scenario. So there's no appliance, it's just software-based. You install it on your endpoints so that your out-of-network machines are covered. It also can handle SQL databases, so just the application backup and Exchange backup. And it's good if you have those that they don't need to have that 15-minute restore time. So I would say for your non-critical systems, the cloud backup is an awesome part of it, and we recommend highly that you use both in conjunction. And then the DRAS part is really for your critical systems where you really need to have things available to be back up and running in a very short amount of time.
Okay, super. Derek, my name is Michael from Denmark. How many data centers do you have in Europe?
Hey, Michael from Denmark. I'm in Hamburg, so I'm just below you by about an hour. We have a data center in Frankfurt and one in London, and we also have a partner just outside of Amsterdam that has his own data center that he sells to direct users through.
Okay, Derek, boy, coming back at you here again, man. With workstations, okay, with workstations running in the cloud, what is the performance like when the workstation has to communicate back to the LAN? For example, call into the server for a file or AD, Active Directory authentication, the client application that is accessing a database on the LAN.
Well, it's not going to be as good as being run on your production environment, that's for sure. And that's why we've designed the workflow to be a stop your downtime ticker as soon as possible so people can get back to work. That's the priority. And then after that, we make it very easy to restore back from whatever point in time you're ready to go back to your production environment. So while your machines are running in the cloud, all you have to do is right-click, run a backup, which happens very quickly, and then you recover back down to your production environment. And that's something that, and the reason we do that is because of this exactly, because your performance is going to be based off of the connectivity options you have available in the area. So some people are going to be in a better position to run from the cloud for a longer period of time than others. But that is but the priority in the workflow is stop the downtime and then get back up and running where you're at full boat.
Okay, great. Let's bring Chris back in. Derek, there's another one for you, but I want to break it up. Chris, is your solution really aimed at SMB? This seems to be targeted to larger enterprises.
Good question. So we actually got started as a direct-to-cloud only business, and really 99% of our customers at that time were SMB, and they individual entrepreneurs all the way up through 20, 30, 40 employee companies, and make up the bulk of our customer base. We acquired an appliance company called EverSync about 3 years ago, and then blended that together with our cloud offering to create the disaster recovery service. That service is designed to scale up, and so we do have customers with tens of terabytes of data, but it does have an entry point as small as 1 terabyte. So we have a lot of SMB customers that have less than 1 terabyte that use the entry-level offering. So I would say the big difference there is it's designed to scale. The largest appliances are over 140 terabytes in capacity, but the bulk of our customer base is truly SMB.
Okay, Derek, back to you, sir. Boy, this is a long one, so bear with me. Here we go. Let's say I have 20 desktop users on site with a local database server that is being backed up using your service. How are those desktop users going to be connected to the virtual DB server that you set up in the cloud? Will they have 20 virtual desktops in your cloud as well? How do they connect to those desktops? None of this seems clear. Boy, that's a mouthful of questions. That's 4 questions, Derek.
Yeah, so I want to start by saying that one of the things that we do is, and that we do very well, is when you're talking to our team and our sales engineers, they're not just sales engineers that know about our product and that's it. They're all administrators, and actually some have actually come from our partners, and they've come to work for us directly. And so they're all IT administrators and qualified to handle these types of workflows to get you a very specific answer and scenario so that when you are ready to do your test recovery, we know what the plan is, and we'll help you through that as well. We actually had an environment that was an entire data center with hundreds of users connected to it, and we were able to set it up in a way that when we failed over to our cloud, that all of the users were seamlessly migrated and pointed to the new data center, which had application servers, database servers, mail servers, everything you could think of, file servers, licensing, authentication, the whole bit. So we can help you through that and give you a very specific plan. So to answer your question, 20 users and they're connected to a database server that's being backed up, you would virtualize the database server to our cloud, and then you would get access information, and then you'd be able to reroute your network to point there for all those requests. Now, depending on how your network's configured, that could take more or less time, but again, that's something that you would want to bring up with our sales engineers, and they would help make sure that that's something that you can do very quickly. And the boot orchestration, if it's, you'd mentioned, are we going to have a bunch of virtual desktops in the cloud? If they're all terminal services and it's a terminal service server that you'd be booting up, the answer would probably be yes, and we'd be able to help you out with that too.
Yeah, because we did have a question of the orchestration of that, so it sounds like you've checked off on that. Derek, just to make sure we've checked off on one other question I have here, image level backups or just files and folders? You can revisit that.
Well, it's technically an image level backup. We call it a DR backup, and the difference of what we say is a DR backup versus an image level is when you go to recover, most of the time with a traditional DR system, they handle full image backup and full image recovery very well. With what we call our DR backups, it's the difference of right-clicking and selecting to browse and recover files, and then you're immediately put into kind of a virtual tree view of your machine, of your image, and then you can select the files you want and push them to the user you want, or to a new machine, or you could right-click and say boot. So it does both simultaneously, no additional licensing required. It's just kind of built into the workflow, and you don't have to. It's also not one of those scenarios where all of a sudden you're managing 10 different types of backup sets to accommodate this, which could be a problem for your I/O. So the answer is we do it all, and it's very easy and no additional licensing required.
Okay, Derek, another question. Do you also do file and folder level backups too?
Absolutely. So outside of the DR part, we do have a piece of software which I recommend everyone use. You run it on your end users' machines, and you can deploy it through Active Directory. And it can automatically be set for specific backup sets, so your common My Documents folders and those sorts of things. And it'll run off-site automatically on whatever schedule you put it to. And the subsequent backups are so fast at an end user's machine, you can have those backups running every couple of hours or even 1 hour if you want, and the user won't even notice because it'll be so quick.
Very cool. Well, we're starting to turn the corner on the webinar, folks. Maybe time for one more question if we get one queued up. Here we go. There's another question. Okay, Michael, any partner in Denmark, and if so, which one is the largest one? Derek?
I don't know offhand what partners we have in Denmark. I believe most of our partners in Europe are in the London area, and we just have a few kind of spread out in different parts of the EU. So you might be one of the first.
Hey, there you go. The spoils go to whatever that phrase is. Darn it, it's been a long week already. Okay, the last one. Once again, how are you different from that? How are you different from data, Chris?
Okay, so we covered parts of it. I think one of the biggest one, again, is a subscription model where you don't have to buy the appliance. The second one is the ability to cover the complete environment with the direct-to-cloud. The data solution is really a traditional BDR solution geared towards servers primarily. And you can take information on PCs and save them to a folder on a server and then back that server up, but it's not quite the same thing. But again, we can do image or file and folder based backup and recovery on any endpoint device, laptop, tablet, cell phone, you name it. And then the last piece is our SLA. We have a guaranteed 15 minutes to recover any server that goes down, whether that's on site on your appliance or if that's in our cloud. So that SLA is unmatched in the industry, and we have never missed it. And actually, we're averaging somewhere south of 2 minutes right now, so that's another differentiator. It's a very high-powered virtualization engine in the cloud that we have there.
All right, we'll sneak one more in. Folks, we're coming up on top of the hour. Everybody needs to get back to work. The last day and a half of work before the holiday. Does your solution work in Russia, Derek?
Yeah, we would connect it to a nearby data center, whether that's Australia or somewhere else, or if you needed to set up a new data center. It's easy for us to do. Usually about 30 to 45 days that we can have a new location set up. And that's if we're finding a provider ourselves. Usually what we do is we have a partner in the area that would be able to set it up much faster.
There we go. So folks, I'm sorry, Derek. Go ahead.
No, but it works from anywhere. You would just be connecting to a data center not in Russia if that's not already set up.
Okay, so we are literally at the top of the hour, and the winner of the prize, you'll be contacted by this fine team here, sir. The winner is Brian McNally. So Chris, I'm assuming you'll reach out to Brian and he can select the prize if I understood the contest correctly?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I, for one, am going to keep our promise this week. Darn it. It's the top of the hour. You have given us an hour of your time, folks. We really appreciate it. INFRASCALE, thank you for stopping by and educating the community and awarding the prize to our friend Brian. And everybody have a super Thanksgiving holiday, but there's still another day of work, which is kind of why I'm anxious to get everybody back in the office.
Great. Hey, thank you, Harry.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Folks, have a great day.